All righty. Good evening, family and friends. My name is Finda Hillman, and I am a proud member of the Prince Hall Grand Chapter of the Order of the Eastern Star, jurisdiction of Georgia. Specifically, I am a part of the Atlanta Masonic District number 3, and I proudly serve as worthy matron for Star of Georgia number 378. This evening, I serve as your moderator for this very worthy event. Before we get into our program, I would like to take this opportunity to allow our magnificent grand worthy matron, Deirdre Wilson, the opportunity to bring greetings.
Thank you, worthy matron Hillman. Good evening. My name is Deirdre Wilson. I am the 16th grand worthy matron for the jurisdiction of Georgia, Prince Hall, Order of the Eastern Star. The Prince Hall Eastern Star organization is over 120 years old, and we are part of the oldest fraternal organization in the world. Our primary focuses are community involvement through service to others and assisting different charitable organizations. We have approximately 5,000 members throughout Georgia, and we give annually scholarships throughout the state of Georgia. Last year, I proudly say that we gave almost $250,000 in scholarships. I pray you enjoy this workshop, Sisters Boss Up, being presented tonight. Thank you to our chairperson for this workshop, worthy matron Hillman, and to the committee and to all the panelists. Thank you on behalf of the Prince Hall Grand Chapter and myself.
Thank you, Grand Worthy Matron. We thank you for your leadership and guidance throughout this planning process. Under the leadership of our Prince Hall Grand Chapter, we are a group of dynamic brothers and sisters laboring together to help uplift mankind. We have been active in communities across the state of Georgia and beyond for over 100 years. We strive to provide service to our elders, mentoring our youth, raising funds for scholarship, championing education, and advocating for matters that impact our community. And by God's grace and mercy, we are going to continue to keep on keeping on. At this time, I would like to give a special shout out of appreciation to acknowledge the team of sisters who served on the planning committee. Those members are Grand Trustee Yvette Lovely, Grand Associate Conductor Sally Mills, Rosa Weston, District Worthy Matron, Past Matron Pandora Payne, Past Matron Melanie Edwards, Past Matron Trisha Briley, Past Matron Stephanie Pascal, and Past Matron Rolanda Davis. We welcome you again to this introductory and inaugural event, Sisters Boss Up. Again, my name is Finda Hillman, and I will serve as your moderator for this evening. I myself am a small business owner. My husband and I are opening a Black-owned beauty supply store this week, Friday, in Ashburn, Georgia, which is in South Georgia. So if you are ever in the area, please stop by and see us. Tonight, you are in for a treat, my friends. You will be hearing from 6 African-American women business owners, members of Prince Hall Order of the Eastern Star. These sisters are fantastic. They are leaders in their own rights, and tonight, they will help us get a better understanding of the methodology behind the world of business. Believe it or not, there are studies that indicate that having a successful business is not only about making sales, getting contracts or deals. A successful business depends on one's mental and emotional state in order to handle the good and tough days. If you are in the right frame of mind pertaining to business, you will be able to face the various challenges ahead. So let's meet these dynamic panelists. My sisters, as I call your names, please wave for the people and flash your beautiful smiles. Janitha Moore is in the real estate industry. She is the owner of Exceedingly More LLC. Janitha has been a realtor for 20 years, serving the Atlanta metropolitan area. Her greatest passion is serving people and helping them find comfortable homes that meet their needs. Welcome, my sister. Katrina Williams is in the field of early childhood education, and she is the owner of a daycare and co-owner of 3D Investigations. She has been a business owner for 20 years. Welcome, Sister Williams. Kendra Stewart is the owner of Metro Consulting Services, LLC, where she provides program development, training, and support to social service agencies and mental health counseling agencies. Welcome, my sister. Melanie Edwards is the owner of Camel Consulting, LLC, where she provides a great deal of support to the nonprofit industry by offering services such as survey research, data analysis, technical report writing, program evaluation, and needs assessments. Sister Edwards, welcome. Stephanie Shepard is an established attorney in the Atlanta area. She is the owner of Shepard Legal Services and owns a real estate brokerage firm. Sister Shepard, welcome to you. Tasha Plaza is the owner of the Prime Legal Securities. She has been a business owner for 7 years, and she started her business at the tender age of 25. At the time, she was the youngest in her field to obtain state licensing credentials. And she just celebrated opening a new location and expansion of services this past Saturday. Sister Plaza, welcome and congratulations. In addition to these panelists, we have also been blessed to tap into a brain trust of subject matter experts who will help us put things in the proper context tonight. These experts will also share quick tips and resources to help navigate the business process. Let's meet our contributors. Sister Felicia Sneed is the owner of 3 businesses, 3 Key Movie Screen Rentals and more, Color Streak Rain Nailed It by Color Streak, 3K Mailbox Makeovers. Thank you for joining us, Sister Sneed. The next 2 contributors, while not Prince Hall, y'all, let's go easy on them. They're still good people and we still love them. So we're gonna love on them this evening. We welcome Ms. Tanya Jenkins, whose background is in accounting, auditing, grants, and compliance. Thank you for joining us, Ms. Jenkins. And Mr. Kavian Hillman, who is the Vice President of Commercial Banking for Center State Bank. He brings over 15 years of experience in accounting, finances, business development, and economics. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Hillman. All right, so let's drive right into our discussion for the evening. I'm excited to get some of this wealth of knowledge. Now, this is a workshop, so I want you all to just relax. I know that many of us have been working today. Some of us have been at home with our children. Some of us are still actually teaching from home. So we give you all a shout out and we give you all virtual hugs and kisses. But we want you all to relax and let's together get the knowledge that we need so that we can improve and build our businesses higher and higher. We are here to celebrate Black businesses and to learn from each other so that we can all be motivated to build businesses and strive to position ourselves for financial success. With that framework, let's start with the lightning round of questions for my sister panelists. So this is for the entire group of my panelists. Please share with us, and you can all just kind of chime in. How important is it for someone who is interested in starting a business to really spend time studying the various industries in order to make the right decision on the type of business to start? What has been your experience in the decision-making process?
I'll jump in with my business being in a very specific industry of research. It was important for me to make the decision on doing something that I learned that I'm good at, or if it's something that was hot right now that I could make money. And so for me, I decided to go with using my skill set, going with the business that used my skill sets and something that I really enjoyed doing. And so as such, in making that decision, I understood the importance of finding your niche in the business industry. So the first thing you would want to do is go through your due diligence and research what's out there, how people's doing, what are the unmet needs is really the key to look for in what you're doing, so that you could offer something new instead of just going into an industry where others exist.
Brittany Matron Hillman, for me, I started my businesses based on my kids. I have two young men that I refer to as my kings. And I started 3K movie screen rentals and more when they were 11 and 15 years old, because I'd run out of ideas for parties. So one day for their birthdays, I rented a screen, a projector, speakers, and I had a movie in the backyard. And that same night, I came up with the name. I found a screen, I had speakers, I had a projector. And not only was it a way for me to host parties for their their peers, but it was also an opportunity for me to branch out into the school systems. So my boys would actually go in and work the event. So it's actually their business. I started it for them, and they actually gave me the idea to do it. So from that business to 3K Mailbox Makeover is my 16-year-old's business, because he's a baseball player and he can't work at the Publix and the McDonald's and Chick-fil-A. So he would need to do something on his own time. So now he has that business and he can set his own hours. And with Color Street, that's kind of my deal, because it's girly. That stuff, we'll let them do all the manhandling stuff. But with Color Street, Rain Nailed It by Color Street, it allows me to get out into the community and actually gives back to the community, because what I'm doing with that particular business is not only selling nail strips, but I'm also going to different homeless shelters and pampering those women that are there who've been neglected and left out. So it's kind of I use the community service aspect of it along with the entrepreneurial part of it for my young men.
I would say that yes, understand the needs of the industry that you service, but a lot of times I would also want your gifts to line up with the need. So understand
Interesting.
your gifts so that they can be used uh, for service and appropriately in the industry. Just match your gifts with the needs of the industry, and that would be most helpful.
Thank you.
I totally agree with that, because I have a daughter who's turning 25, and how I got into childcare is I hated every childcare service that I was able to find for her. So I just started off by watching a few kids to owning my own business. So you definitely have to enjoy what you do, have to research the demographics of would this business fit best in this area. So I do think that that's very important.
Thank you, Sister Williams.
It is very critical that you do conduct that research as far as knowing, your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that are presented. So if you're looking at a field and for the particular location where you're located at, if it's heavily saturated, then you may want to consider maybe another location or another business. I will agree with you that it is definitely important to have an interest. You need to love what you do. You don't need to like it, and you don't need to be driven just strictly because of money with it. You need to love it. You need to be able to own it. You need to be able to embrace it, because if you carry that love and desire with you into your business, you'll do better. A lot of it will flow naturally. Now you will have to figure out how to operate the business part of it. That's probably another question coming up soon.
Yes.
But
Sister Stewart,
if you at least know what you're doing, if you love what you're doing, then that part is taken care of.
Sister Stewart, I saw you nodding your head. Did you want to add to that?
I agree that it's very important to know what your talents and gifts are and to be able to follow that. But I also believe that it's important not to cast a very wide net too early. You know, take your time and learn the business and learn from others who have been successful, and then find out where you can diversify and where you can make yourself stand out. Because a lot of us lose a lot of money very early in business, and we don't have longevity because we try to do too much too soon without really knowing what the risks, what the opportunities are.
Tasha, any thoughts on that?
I certainly agree with the fact that if you wanted to meet a need for sure. And before engaging into anything, certainly have a personal and a professional mission, something that you always go back to when times are good, but also times are tough. That's what's going to keep you motivated and to do the research before you get into any sort of business. And depending on the person, sometimes what you are personally good at is not what you're professionally good at. So it's going to be tough maybe to figure out exactly what you would like to do. I mean, I'll give you an example. I love to bake, but I don't see myself opening up a bakery, right? That's just something
that's not your ministry. It's not
exactly.
your ministry. You understand?
But my ministry is certainly doing security training, offering consulting for safety and security. That's sort of a life mission, a life goal, and professionally able to have the experience and the opportunity to do so. So always have those professional and personal missions, things to go back to when you are doing your research and moving forward.
Awesome. Awesome. So some takeaways from here is to look for your motivation, things that inspire you, look internally to see what your gifts are, consider locations, consider your needs, definitely have a mission, and research. So I want to just kind of stay on that thought process for a few moments. And I'm going to segue into another question, but this time I'm going to direct these questions towards Stephanie Shepard and Katrina Williams. Just sharing with you a little data point. According to the Census Bureau, the buying power of African Americans is nearing the $1.4 trillion. Some researchers even say that if Black people had a nation of our own, based on our buying power alone, we would be the 15th largest nation between Spain and Mexico. That's amazing. People nowadays, while they like to consume products and services, they really care about the backstory, sometimes more even than the product. People want to be connected to causes that help the greater good. Alice Walker once said, the most common way that people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any. So my question is this: what are your thoughts on the concepts of buying Black, for us, by us, and our economic power as a people, and whether we are taking advantage of our power?
Well, I think that we are not taking advantage of our power, but I also believe that it depends on the service that's being offered. I think that in childcare, when parents walk in the door, sometimes they're surprised to see that it is a Black owner. My business is in Gwinnett. The area is predominantly white. So sometimes the African-American family is quite shocked to see that it is a Black owner. I definitely support Black businesses. And I think that it's a great opportunity for us to support each other. Those facts and statistics that you gave were amazing. And I was not aware of that, but definitely, I don't believe that we take advantage of it. Just as you stated, you're opening up a beauty salon. I think that's phenomenal because the beauty salons I go into, I don't see anyone who looks like me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Stephanie, what are your thoughts?
So I definitely agree that we're not utilizing our buying power. For decades, at least maybe even centuries, we have been known as Black gold because of our buying and because of our spending power. We are consumers. We will spend money. If nothing else, we will spend. I definitely support Black businesses. Every opportunity that I get to be able to support a Black business, I do. I encourage other small Black business owners as well to support our Black-owned businesses. There was another question that you asked. I was making some quick notes. So what was the other question that you asked?
I think you kind of touched on it. It was kind of like, what are your thoughts about the for us, by us concept? And then also, are we really tapping into our economic power as a people? So I think you touched on
Like I
that.
said, no, we're not tapping into the power, not by any stretch of the imagination. That's somewhere that we can definitely do better. But what I will tell you, that things that
Well-
I've heard as a business owner, though, is sometimes people are reluctant to support Black businesses because oftentimes they feel like they're being taken advantage of. Or the flip side of it is, you know, when they come in and see, oh, okay, you know, it is a Black-owned business. You know, sometimes people are looking for discounts and things like that. And, you know, and just depending, you know what I'm saying? And particularly in my profession, you will have people to do that for you, but, you know, they could go to, you know, Morgan & Morgan or any one of those big Caucasian-owned law firms in Atlanta, and they will not walk in the door with that expectation. So I think that to a certain extent, we are our own worst enemy as far as not fully utilizing the power and potential of our buying power.
Well, thank you, because that actually is going to allow me to, again, segue and get a little bit deeper into that buying power. This time, I'd like to direct my questions towards Tasha, Janitha, and Melanie. Here's another data point to share. According to the National Black Chamber of Commerce, 70% of Black-owned businesses are self-financed. 23% receive funds from family and friends, and 11% tap into their 401k or savings. What has been your experience? What are you familiar with in terms of your colleagues and, you know, what they may have done to build their business? And what would you do if you could do things differently looking back?
For me, I would not treat my business like a hobby. So I didn't prepare to, you know, a budget and expenses and understand the cost of things to move forward. Real estate is a very expensive profession, and it is not just about, you know, a contract, like you said, and chasing deals. It's a lot of thought and strategic thinking behind it, a lot of marketing. And you just have to change your mindset to be business minded. And that involves understanding what a business plan is and understanding how to budget. And I just had a concept when I took a finance class, and I was like, and one of the projects was, you know, create a business. And so I did want to create a business for myself later in life. And so for me, going into real estate was kind of like my dream fulfilled. But really, I was not approaching it using the proper knowledge and the tools until I understood that this is not supplemental income. This is not a hobby. This is a business, and I need to change my mindset. So I missed out on a lot of opportunities because I was treating it as a hobby when I should have been having a business mindset and posture. So I would suggest that if you want to go into business, get you a mentor and understand what it means to have a business plan and understand how to budget, because it's not about, you know, chasing payments every month. It's about budgeting for cost over time.
Absolutely.
I'd like to jump in and piggyback on what Sister Moore saying, because she touched on a couple of things that were my experience as well with the whole idea of hobby. And mine, I guess, being in a consulting business with survey research and data analysis and statistics, you know, obviously that's not a hobby unless you're a nerd, kind of like me. But, you know, so it was like, I chose the moonlighting approach, where there were times where, for the most part, in the development of my business, it was I had a 9 to 5, but then I was moonlighting and building up contracts on the side. So for me, my investments early on as far as self-financing were efforts that were for marketing, which I didn't do a lot of because fortunately, when my business first kicked off years ago, it was a lot of word of mouth, repeat business and referrals. And so I didn't really have to market myself. So again, just piggyback on the idea of you having to decide, like take this seriously. This isn't a hobby or / moonlighting thing, that this is real. There's demand for my business. If I had the time to really put effort into promoting it, it could really, be its own thing beyond a hobby or moonlighting per se. So it really depends on the business. My thing, because I'm also cheap and frugal, I knew I wanted to take the approaches that were where I didn't have to take out a business loan, or I didn't jump into a brick and mortar space, that I operate from a private home office. So that, again, because of consulting services, I have the opportunity to do that. And so it really kind of depends on tailoring, and as Sister Moore said, getting a mentor to help guide you, because the financial aspect really, it can be a make or break.
Thank you.
I can certainly agree with the aspect of sort of being, not necessarily treating it as a hobby, but leveraging off of what you're already doing to finance the business, but then eventually figuring out, hey, if I don't put my 100%, I'm not going to get 100% back, right? So I would say for the first 2.5 years, I was in that and self-financing everything. You imagine me going into a bank and then asking for a business loan. And I'm not going to say they laughed in my face, but I wasn't the exact candidate at the time when the business started. But fortunately, I was able to come across another African-American woman who was a business banker at the bank I was going to, and she gave me some really good advice. I think it was just God aligned us because she would pray. She did a little extra. So I think when you become sort of vulnerable and explain your situation and the vision, of course, that energy will come back to you. So fortunately, in this case, it was with a business banker, and she was able to give me some helpful tips in working with contracts and negotiating certain things, maybe upfront payments from clients, or knowing how to ask for that. Especially for larger sort of contracts. So that's one tool that I used. And that is really based off of the reputation that you build, right? If people believe in you, they're going to invest. So if you believe in yourself, everything else falls into line. But certainly that pivot from 50-50 to 100% investment is all the change in the world.
Wow. So the takeaway here would be, like you said, and it has also been said by the others, is really to really believe in yourself and believe in the products that you are putting out there. And then that way, others will buy into that. You establish your relationship, and then your business will continue to soar. And I really want to stick on that frame of thought. And Melanie, I want to keep you on, and I want to direct this to Katrina and also Kendra. Now, we all have those really cute t-shirts. I wear them oftentimes, where you have like motivational quotes on your t-shirts. And one that I find that I really like, it says like, I grind differently, or my grind, something about the grind. My question is, what do successful business owners have in common? And how do you grind differently from others? How do you handle the setbacks and the disappointments in business? And how do you bounce back and keep moving to the top?
I think that they have the same mindset. No is not no, it's just a delay for another time. They don't give up, they keep pushing. So I think a successful business owner, they all kind of have the same mindset of what success looks like, what we need to do to win.
Awesome.
I think
I
a
like,
successful business owner also has to have passion for what they're doing. And somebody spoke about that earlier, because if you're just doing it just to pay the bills, after a while, you're going to give up on it and move to something else, and you're not going to put in 110%. And so if you want whatever you're doing to succeed, you're going to put that at the front of whatever else is happening at the time. And you may have to make some difficult choices when it comes to family time, organization time, even personal time. But if you have the passion and you really want this to work, then you're going to do what you need to do to make it work. And even if someone tells you no, then you may have to go back and regroup, re-strategize, and come back again with a different presentation to them.
Melanie?
I think that's a wonderful direction to take us in about the grind, because there is the grind. I think a lot of times people get the quick success stories, or, you know, oh, you got a business, go girl. And they don't really get the understand the grind. They think that if they have a good idea, they know people out there need it, and the money is just going to come in, or the contracts are going to magically get signed. And that's not how it works. I like what Sister Williams said about no is not a no. That was one of the things I wrote down, hoping we'd get to that, is that one of the things that I was weakest in was promoting myself and like doing the cold calls. And because you understand, as I mentioned, a lot of my business was word of mouth, and it fell in my lap early on. And so when I got to the point of where I'm calling people, and now I'm finding myself talking them into or convincing them that they need my services, there were some no's, but I didn't hang up the phone with it being a no. I hung it up with, well, can you connect me with people in your industry that may need my service? While you may already have a survey researcher, are you aware of others in your industry that you can connect me with that I can? Or for marketing purposes, some of the things that I've done when I've gotten the no is to tell me what type of publication or newsletters do people read in your industry, that if I were going to spend $500 on marketing, tell me where I could focus that marketing in your industry, so that I could drive business. So again, the grind is not saying a no as a no, seeing it as an opportunity to learn another thing that you can do to build your business.
Awesome. Awesome. Katrina, did you have any thoughts? I'm sorry. Did I capture any? I saw you nodding. Did you want to add anything else?
No, I was
Perfect.
just agreeing with her.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. So the yearn for success should cause us to grind harder each day, but there are always some obstacles. So let's look at some of these potential obstacles, and I will open this up to the panel. Race, gender, and age. Here's a data point. According to the National Black Chamber of Commerce, 80% of African Americans experience more challenges with getting their business off the ground due to their race. But we know that there are additional issues that include race, gender, and age. So what advice can you give about navigating the harsh reality of race, gender, or age in your different fields that cause potential barriers in business? And I want to throw it to Tasha first, because I know you are in a non-traditional field and you're a millennial. So I want you to kind of lead the conversation from there.
All right, because I check all those points, right? So it's interesting, because once I decided that those disadvantages were advantages, then things opened up. So it's funny, I had a harsh reality when it came to this. Not too long ago, I had an auditor come in, and she walks in and she says, oh, I'm looking for the owner. And, you know, I say, hello, how are you? And then she comes and sits down and she said, you know what? I'll be honest with you. Most of the time, owners of security companies are old white men. And I said, that's all right. Welcome. You're something new today. And I love those experiences. Before, when I got started, they used to be awkward. They used to feel uncomfortable. But as I was saying before, once you find the confidence and believe in yourself, then, you know, that message spreads, that energy exudes from yourself, and you're able to accomplish, you know, if you really work hard at it. There was another point I wanted to mention. Because of those items, yes, someone mentioned someone will try to, maybe clients will try to take advantage of that or say, oh, you need us before we need you. I have been in those situations before, and you know, there has been a seed that I planted and they went with somebody else, and then 2 years later they come back once they recognize, you know, what they may have lost, right? Or what they look to gain, I'll put it that way. So what I love about that is, yes, the challenge is real. I'm not going to, you know, dispute that, argue with that. But I think it takes opportunities like this for all of us to be able to connect and hold each other accountable and keep each other stronger in order to really make this work, to negate those statistics moving forward.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Well, I think
Y'all mighty quiet, so y'all never had any challenges in that area? I don't know.
I think that when in my field, and we as Black women also are guilty of this. If there's a tuition or late fee, then they'll send the husband in to let him ask. So that happens a lot. But the answer remains the same.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Now, I know a lot of times, you know, especially in corporate America, you're right. You know, there are moments, you know, depending on the field that you're in, it's a predominantly, you know, white field or male dominated industry. And you really have to go in and, you know, stake your claim. And sometimes it's like we feel like we're always having to prove ourselves, you know, time and time, no matter how many years you've been in the game, you're always constantly having to prove yourself and tell your story over and over and over again. But it's just one of those, you know, it's an uphill battle. It's something that we're going to have to continue to do, unfortunately, because, you know, the world is changing, but not as rapidly as we would like. As you can see, we're in 2020 still discussing race, gender, and age. But I think, as was said earlier, you know, if someone views that as a disadvantage, you use that as an advantage. And so at this point, what I want to do is I want to get some interaction with our audience. So I created a poll that I'm getting ready to send out, and I would like everyone to take a few seconds in completing that poll, those who are on Zoom. So we'll give you a few seconds to complete that poll, and then we will get a chance to review it together. For those of you who are tuning in via YouTube, which I understand we have a great number who are tuning in, thank you so much. We appreciate the love, we appreciate the support. And here are the questions that are currently being discussed in our poll. Question number 1, and the topic is about supporting Black-owned businesses. Question number 1, do you think Black-owned businesses receive a fair share of support from the Black community? Question number 2, do you think the support for Black-owned businesses has increased given the rise of social injustice in the United States? So just wondering if that is making a difference currently with everything that we have seen in the news and stories that are remaining untold. Is that pushing us now to decide that we really want to take a stance and use our dollars in doing that? So we'll give everyone a few seconds to do that. And again, while you're doing that, I will take this opportunity to continue to plug in the YouTube channel for Prince Hall Grand Chapter of Georgia. It's actually Prince Hall GC Georgia. And the reason why I'm continuing to plug that YouTube channel in is because pursuant to this session, this workshop, you know, we're discussing a lot and we don't want to keep you too long because it is late in the evening. But after this workshop, I actually spoke with the Grand Worthy Matron, and she has approved me to have additional conversations with all of our panelists one-on-one. So you all will get exclusive interviews where we can really dig more into your different experiences, because so many of you are from different fields. And so we really want to get more understanding of, you know, of your business, your experiences, and what you can share. And that content will be dropped right on this YouTube channel so that anyone can continue to access that for future referencing. So, all right, let's check our poll. Okay, I'm going to share the results. Okay, let's take a look at the results. So question number 1, do you think Black-owned businesses receive a fair share of support from the Black community? So we have 97% says no, 3% says yes. Question number 2, do you think the support for Black-owned businesses has increased given the rise of social injustice in the US? So you see we have 62% that feel yes, 17% say no, and 21% say not enough. So I'm going to turn this back over to our panelists because I would like to know your thoughts based on this poll. You see that the responses are varied here. So what are your thoughts on this topic?
My one thing that I'd like to just dig into is the statistic about do we get our fair share of support from the Black community? And obviously I know that's, I wouldn't say obviously, but we know amongst ourselves that that's something that's said out there in the world, that we don't support each other the way we do. But from the business owner perspective, I encourage the owners to hold yourself accountable in considering how much you're marketing to the Black community. Are you taking the Black dollars for granted that I'm Black, they're going to support me, so I'm going to, market in the magazines in the white community, or I'm going to market to the, other organizations that are predominantly not just white, but other races. And so I think we understand amongst ourselves that we could support each other even more, but the business owners also have an accountability issue that makes sure you're trying to you're actively going after the Black dollar and not just taking it for granted that it's going to fall in your lap.
Great point. Great point.
I want to add that, especially since the insurgence of so many social injustices this year, a lot of different avenues, such as the local radio station, has been sponsoring Black-owned businesses. Like on Saturday, they can call in and give their contact information, which I think is great. But I also want to say that Black business owners should make sure that they are ready to receive the traffic. Once the traffic comes, that they are properly licensed, that they have the proper business structure, that they have the proper insurance, that they're ready for this, because you can't just throw your information out there and people come. It's like, oh, well, we're out of t-shirts, or I'm closing half day, and that will deter that customer, that client from visiting you again. They're going to go somewhere else, whether it's an Asian store or a white store, wherever. They're not going to come back to you because the assumption is that you weren't ready. So, as we continue to grow, and hopefully this surge of Black businesses will continue, but make sure we're taking care of our own homes.
Great point. Thank you. Anyone else would like to jump in? If not, I want to pivot just a little bit, and I want to get more now into the business of the business. And I want to tap you for a few seconds, Stephanie, from a legal perspective. Okay. What are some of the top challenges that you see in your experience with regards to small businesses? What do they struggle with the most?
A lot of small businesses, people who are just now starting out, they may not have the correct structure in place. And what I mean by that is, they may say, hey, I want to start a business, and they just go for it. But how are you going to set up that business? A lot of people are sole proprietors, which is, they are the business. I would never in a million years recommend that anybody operate in that capacity, because it's just so much liability that goes into it. But taking the time to research to see, okay, well, so the latest thing was, okay, everybody says, well, I'm gonna be an LLC, but what does that mean? Is that gonna be beneficial for you to be set up as an LLC, or do you need to look at another business structure or entity? And we tapped on this other point earlier, but financing, where's your money coming from? Depending on if you're selling products, how are you gonna keep up with your inventory, or if you're providing a service, what are you gonna be able to do so that you can keep your doors open to be able to provide the service? A lot of times that's not thought out. To have passion is good. You need that to be able to succeed, but you got to have a plan, because if you don't have a plan, you plan to fail. And just other things that people can do on the front end of it that they may not necessarily do. Okay, so if you structure your business properly, you're gonna set up a bank account. So making that relationship with the banker, whoever you choose, whatever bank that you choose to use, you need to be able to definitely establish a relationship with those people so that, if you need a loan or if you need some type of financing, you have an inside connect on how to do that. But that's something that a lot of times people don't think to do. I would say marketing, but that's not one of the immediate things, depending on what type of business that you're having. But it's definitely something that needs to be on the radar. And just depending on, and part of what's going to determine that, the way that you go about that is, some of it is generational, you know what I'm saying? Because our millennials, they are all over social media. So if you have a business and that business is going to be geared towards millennials, you better have a social media presence. If you don't have a social media presence, you are behind the 8 ball. So you got to know who your audience is and how to target that particular audience. Like I said, a lot of times these things are not thought out because, somebody has an idea, they have passion and they want to run with it, but you got to plan your race. You know what I'm saying? Is this a sprint, or are you in this for the long haul? Because if you're in it for the long haul, you have to sit down and think these things out thoroughly. Some other things that may come up, just depending on your business structure, insurance, if you have any kind of business, and I think the pandemic has taught all of us this, is you better have some insurance somewhere. Being in my profession, I carry malpractice insurance. So if somebody decided they want to sue me, at least I'm covered there. But also having general liability insurance as well. So if you rent in a commercial space, your belongings are covered. You never can tell what may happen. It may flood, it may burn down, but at least you have that protection. So if something tragic were to happen like that, you at least have a way to begin to rebuild and restore, and you're not having to come out of your pocket and start over from ground zero. And those are the highlights. I could probably go on forever, but I think that I hit the most important parts of it, like I said. But step number 1 is setting it up right, because if your foundation is flawed, your entire structure is going to be flawed.
All right, we can snap fingers to that. All right, now. So
can I ask you something, Stephanie, real quick?
Yes,
sure
go
can.
right ahead.
I'm an insurance major. I'm so glad you brought that up. But before we had kids, we had a cleaning company, and we had to have the general liability. We had to have the coverage for our equipment and that kind of thing. But we didn't have any employees. But can you talk a little bit about those who have employees and how important it is to have workers' compensation coverage?
In the state of Georgia, if you're operating as a business and you have employees, you have to pay into the unemployment insurance, but you definitely need to have workers' compensation insurance. Once again, you're setting yourself up for failure, depending on the type of business that you have. But even if you're in an office setting, anybody can come in, they can fall. It can be the craziest type of thing that happens, but you definitely need to have that insurance in place, because if you don't have it in place, then you are going to be on the hook for it personally. And it's those kind of things that can really derail your business. You could have a prosperous and growing business, but it only takes one major incident to bankrupt you.
Absolutely. In the state of Georgia, if you have 3 or more employees, you must have workers' comp coverage.
Correct.
Great nuggets. So let me bring in Mr. Hillman. So Kavian, so you are in your role in the financial services industry, you are privy to a lot of the conversations when business owners are preparing to seek funding. They're putting their package together, and Stephanie gave us the tips. They're putting the package together and they're going to the bank to ask for money. You are privy to the conversations when funds are being approved, when business owners are being turned down. You're seeing the why, you're seeing, some of those issues. Share with us some of the top challenges that you see on the back end from a business perspective, particularly with our Black business owners. Tell us what they're facing, what those challenges are, what they're facing And what can we do better to align ourselves to get access to some of those resources?
That's a really good question, Fenda. And I think the panelists already, they gave some really good comments. I think Stephanie made some very valid points around setting up your business structure. So one of the things that I typically see on my end is that they're just starting a new business, they're just starting out, and they don't have a business plan. So I typically put it this simple. If someone comes to you and asks you for money, what are you going to say? How are you going to pay me back? Right? And so that's from the banking perspective, that's what we're looking at. And so if you come into whether it's to a bank or whether you're going to be soliciting funds from a private investor or private equity firm, they want to know how you're going to make money to be able to pay them back. And so if you're just starting out and you're coming, you don't have any cash flow. Because typically from the banking perspective, we look at what have you done for me? Show me what you've done for the past 3 years. Show me your last 3 years of your tax returns. And business owners come in with a dream of what I want to do in the next 3 years. And so when you're just starting out, you don't have any cash flow. You don't have any sales. So your business plan is gold. We want to see your marketing. It needs to be a really beefed up marketing. How are you going to make money? How is it going to be different from your competitors? How are you going to make sure that you can sustain yourself? And then more importantly, your P&L is your financials. How long is it going to take for you to make money? Are you going to make money in that first year? Is it going to take that second or the third year? How much you're going to charge for your product? So many times business owners come in and they have this dream of owning a business. They're passionate about it, but they have not taken the time to sit down and talk with an accountant or a CPA to kind of think through what does the numbers look like. I think Melanie mentioned it, and most of the panelists today, is really about the business part of the business. And so if you don't sit down and take that time to have a very well thought out and planned business plan, even if you have the best concept in the world, you have the best product, if you have the best service, it doesn't matter if you don't really sit down to walk through what does it look like from the financial perspective. And if you're trying to access capital, banks are going to want to see that. And if you go to a bank and they feel like you haven't done your homework, it's going to make it much tougher for you to get your financing. So if you come in my office as a commercial banker and I ask you, hey, show me your business plan. And your answer is, I don't really have one. I haven't really thought about a business plan. Or if you have one and doesn't really kind of detail and lay out, how do you plan on marketing your business? How do you plan on making money? How are you going to pay the bank back? That's where it's going to make it tougher for a bank to be able to lend you money. So those are some things that you really have to think through. And this kind of came up too, is really about the legal aspect as well, and making sure that you have your structure, going back to what Stephanie said, properly set up. So if it's an LLC, you need your operating agreement. When you come in and open an account at the bank, you need to get your EIN number to make sure you have that from the IRS. You can go do that from the irs.gov, set up your EIN number to make sure because this even came up during the PPP process. As a lot of you know, with this coronavirus, for the CARES Act, there were some funds out there for business owners to take advantage of it, for them to be able to sustain themselves through the pandemic. I had several business owners come to me and say, I want to apply for these funds or resources. But as we dug deeper, they didn't have all the legal stuff done. They didn't have an EIN number. They was not registered with the Secretary of State, which we checked before we did those applications. So again, make sure that you do your research, you take your time and have all that in line before you open your door and start to do business. That's really, really important, because anytime you come into a bank to seek funding, they're going to check and make sure that you've done all that. Secretary of State, you have your insurance lined up, all of your licenses. And I know it can be a lot to do this, right? It could cost a lot of money to do that initially. But even if you're in a field where it requires licensing, if you don't have the capital or the know-how, partner with someone, maybe a mentor, in terms of they may know how to cut through some red tape for the processing. Having a mentor is really big when you're going to be starting a new business, because you don't know what you don't know. That's the biggest gap, is information and knowledge. If you don't know, you don't know. Not having that network, because people who don't look like us, they have a network to tap up into, right? I don't know what to do, but here's your blueprint. Other minorities, they come from overseas and they have a blueprint, a book. It looks like you come to the US and here's your book. You do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then now you're going to have a business. I think we don't do that enough in our community. So those are some things I think that as you're thinking about starting a business, really have those things in line, and then look for resources. The SBA is a great tool for business owners who don't have cash flow. Because if you go to a bank on the conventional side, they're going to want to see your tax returns for the past 3 years. But on the SBA side, you can actually use projections. Again, that's where the projections come into play. When you have your business plan, you've actually sat down and thought through, what is your P&L going to look like? What is your net income going to look like? Now you have projection to go to and say, hey, I want to tap into the SBA. Look at SCORE Atlanta. And I think Finn is going to send some of this information out after the call to everyone who registered. SCORE Atlanta will give you a free business and mentor coach. And they will actually help you dive deep into and create a business plan. So if you don't have that skill set, if you go to SCORE Atlanta, they'll give you a mentor and a coach, and they'll walk you through that. How do I do a financial projection? How do I start doing the business plan? So, and then in the SBA 8A program, that's an extensive 9-year program where they have mentorship. And once you get that designation, it makes it a lot easier if your business is around getting government contracts. Again, we're always excluded from the table, but we have to make sure that we go out there and seek the resources and make sure that we're making ourselves marketable. So when the opportunities come, we have our stuff in order. You can have the best product, the best service. Opportunity can come walking in here. And somebody mentioned this earlier. You can get a free advertisement on the radio station, but then people come to see you and you don't have your stuff in order.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And still keeping in line with our monies, I want to transition a little bit over to Ms. Tanya Jenkins. Tanya, I want you to talk from your perspective. We hear so many horror stories about businesses failing because of the mismanagement of the finances, of the day-to-day finances, particularly small businesses with maybe 1 to 2 employees or more. And we tend to lean on and depend on whomever we can get to help us out. And sometimes that does go wrong. I want you to give me some of your thoughts on our finances in terms of business owners, and especially for the new business owners who are just kind of getting into, getting their footing. Give us some thoughts on that. And then also I want to tap into your experience in the grants world for anyone out there who is looking to develop or start a nonprofit. What are some things that they need to consider when they're going after grant monies? You got it.
Thank you, Finda. Everyone did a wonderful job this evening. As I was doing my research to come up with information for about money tips, money management tips, I found out that 42% businesses fail because of mismanagement of funds. And I have 9 simple steps that can help you maintain your funds to keep you afloat. 1, stay on top of your deadlines. Know when your deadlines are due so you can pay your bills on time and avoid excessive fees. And that's considered like your accounts payable. You know which bills you have to pay in the days and the dates that you need to make payments. Number 2, monitor your spending. Track your spending. Make sure you know what's coming in and what's going out. This is part of your accounting side of the entire accounting part of the business. Number 3, don't forget about your accounts receivable. Know when you're supposed to receive money. Know who you're supposed to be expecting your funds to come from. Number 4, separate your business from your personal accounts. Never mix business and personal together. Always keep them separate. That's also with relationships. If you may have a friend doing something in your business, make sure you let her know that, hey, you're working for me, and when you come to work, we strictly supervising an employee. We're not friends. Don't get into your feelings, but make sure you keep your business separated from your personal, because you don't want to start dipping in your business funds, paying your personal bills. Then you'll never know how you are making a profit. Number 5, time your purchases. Always put your need before your wants. This will help you keep from making those unnecessary purchases that you like, oh, I need that, and go ahead and get it. But is it something that you really, really need, or is it more of a want that you want to have in your business? One of the biggest ones is create a budget. Simplify your way of managing your money is by creating a budget. It lays out your expenses or what you need to pay for your operate your business, and also it forecasts your amount of revenue that you will be receiving. And if you're not on budget, then you know you need to make some shifts in what you're doing. Manage your inventory. This tracks how you're spending the money, and if you have too much inventory and not getting enough revenue for it, or if you're buying the same thing over and over and it is not going out the business, then you might want to track your inventory and make sure you got good numbers on your inventory. Number 8, cut costs. Decrease your expenses and increase your income. And if you do these 8 things, number 9, you will create yourself a cash reserve. And when you apply the beginning 8 money management tips, then you will create a cash revenue to help you with those unexpected emergency expenses that you may occur. For the grants part of it, when you're applying for grants money, the grant always tell you exactly how you're supposed to be managing those funds or what you're supposed to be using those funds on. So with grants, I would advise that you will you make sure you account for everything that comes in and out for those grants, because when grant money is not considered free money, because someone gonna come back and audit you on that to make sure that you spend the money properly and you use it for the reason why you asked for the money. And that's all I happened.
All right, thank you. And these last few minutes, I want us to talk a little bit more about marketing, and I want to kick it over to Sister Sneed, because I want you to talk to us a little bit about how you build a brand. How do you sell your company without being too gimmicky or cheesy? How do you sell it so that it's very natural? And what is the quickest way that you can ruin your brand and business relationships?
Well, the way that I market my brand, going back to my family, to my husband and my 2 sons, I started off with 3K, 3 Kings, my 3 Kings, and I build from that brand. Everything that I do has to deal with royalty and that persona, that platform. So when I came up with 3K movie screens, rental, and more, I then came up with 3K mailbox makeover, and now Rain nailed it by Color Street. Rain means queen in French. So keeping that persona the same, because that's kind of how I live my life. You know, that's kind of what people. I am past Grand Queen, but I started my business way before that, and I've always used that. So that's been my logo and branding it. And with Rain nailed it by Color Street, my logo is a queen, as a crown, and their logo says "Welcome to the Queendom." And just making sure that, again, to your point, making sure that you are comfortable with your own skin, you're comfortable talking about it, you're comfortable applying the product on people's nails. And this particular company started because of the pandemic. And I wanted to reference this as well for people who are starting their businesses. You're having to think a little bit differently now. When you're starting your business, you have to make sure it's pandemic proof, right? You have to look at people who are working during the pandemic and those people who were not working during the pandemic. So when I decided to start my company with Color Street, I thought about all the women who did not want to go to the nail salon because they didn't want to be exposed to the coronavirus and that kind of thing. And it was a no-brainer for me. I did virtual parties, Zoom parties, my inventory. I do have some on hand, but you order online. I have a website that's set up specifically for the nail strips. And it just made sense to me to do something that was fun and also created an extra stream of income for me. And with my young men, the pandemic came along and it actually increased the volume of their business. We've had probably 2 Screen on the Green sets or events since April. So they've been really, really busy. So of course, my oldest son has gone back to school now, but he and his younger brother, they would go out and they would set up, or they would just go and they would drop off the equipment and they would go and pick it up because people weren't going to the movie theaters. So I say that to say that your business, you're going to have your ebbs and your flows. And for me, it's been word of mouth. To your point, Melanie, you said that you started off with word of mouth, and that's what we're doing because we don't want to bring in too much business so that we can't manage it and we have to turn people away. That would be the worst thing that you can possibly do, is market and then you're not able to serve. So what we're doing right now is building our brand now, because we see that there is a need for it and people enjoy it. And we're going to invest in the equipment, more screens, more speakers, and more projectors. So that's what we're doing. And marketing is very key. Social media, I'm telling you, that's the best thing since sliced bread. I have Facebook groups, I have Instagram groups, and things of that nature, and you really have to stay on top of it. But once it's there, it's there. So every once in a while, I get people that have come to some virtual party. They didn't order anything, but they're like, "Oh, Felicia, this is a new shade. I love it. How do I order it?" I just shoot them my link and they go out and then they order it. And before I know it, by the end of the month, I have $500 or $600 in sales based on prior presentations. So that's what I've been doing in terms of making sure that my brand kind of is segue into what I am comfortable with and who I am and what I stand for. And giving back is really very important to what we do with our brand, because we do donate a lot of our services to the churches. We donate my services, like I mentioned earlier, to the women's shelters and things like that, because making money is great, but sometimes you have to give back in order to receive. So.
Amen. That's a whole word, Sister Sneed. That's a whole word. Well, family and friends, unfortunately, we are out of time. I wish we could go on and on and on with the conversation, but hopefully we were able to ignite something in you all that will help you all continue these discussions at home, take some of these tips, and just continue to visit our YouTube channel so that we can make more information available to you. I want you all to have a wonderful evening, but more importantly, you all know as a people, there's an important date coming up, November the 3rd, and we must get out and vote. Vote, vote, vote. Please get your family and friends and find out when those final dates are coming up, as when you can request your ballots from home. We really need a massive turnout, because as we are seeing, elections have consequences. So please get out and vote. But other than that, you all, I have enjoyed you all. I am excited. Thank you all so much, and God bless.
Fenda, I have one last quote I want to leave the group with before you leave.
Okay.
So in line with the theme of Women Boss Up, this is a quote by Madam C.J. Walker. "I am not merely satisfied in making money for myself, for I am endeavoring to provide employment for hundreds of women of my race. I want to say to every Negro woman present, don't sit down and wait for the opportunities to come. Get up and make them happen." So you all have made it happen. You guys gave some really good quotes today and really good nuggets. So I salute to you all. And again, as she said, you guys made it happen. Let's make it happen.
Sisters Boss Up. Thank you, ladies. Have a great evening.
Thank you.